What's wrong, McFly? Chicken?
You know, I remember having a hard time getting the infallible trophy in Fall Guys. I mean, I get it. It's not easy to win the game, let alone get 5 in a row. Probably could make a trophy tips video about it now that I think about it. Who knows? Maybe it'll actually be a good one. Alright. Now, what did I do to get it? Whew. Wow. That was, what time is it? Oh, I've been going for 3 hours. Let's see what we got. Maybe it's just not meant to be. On September 25th, 2021, I uploaded my first video in what has become known as my Trophy Tip series, a set of videos dedicated to me offering tips on how I earned certain trophies that are usually more difficult than others, with the intention that these tips might help you to in turn earn the trophy for yourself. While there may only be a few videos in that playlist right now, I do have plans to make a whole slew of other videos, but there's just some trophies I just really couldn't do it for, gang. My intentions with Trophy Tips is to offer tips and tricks on how I did the thing, so that you can in turn earn that trophy and hopefully get the platinum for yourself, if that's what you're going for anyways. When I'm picking which trophies to cover for this series, I usually rely on websites like PlayStationProfiles.com to help me find out what trophies I've earned, choosing ones with lower completion rates to talk about and working from there. It's admittedly not a perfect system, because those sites only really track the player stats of those who are signed up for the site, but it works for my own needs. The unfortunate thing is that sometimes it's just hard to really come up with tips for some of the trophies I want to talk about. In some cases, it's just a matter of I can't think of at least 4 tips on how to complete it, and for consistency's sake, I try to include at least 4 tips per video. In others, it's just that I personally don't think the trophy is too hard or really requires me to sit down and analyze what I might have done to unlock it. And in a few fringe cases beyond that, it's because I don't have the trophy yet. And I don't want to offer tips on how I did the thing if I haven't even done the thing yet. That's like the whole premise of the series. What do you expect? So instead of just simply letting them slip by the wayside and leave you all high and dry without any new videos, I figured I'd make a video. Plus, I personally enjoy when I get to make a video talking about a bunch of completely random games tangentially related to one another by a flimsy theme, so this works out for me as well. At one point or another, each of the trophies I will be presenting in this video were ones that I had originally planned on making a Trophy Tips video for, but somewhere along the line while working on them, I just decided I didn't have enough to justify making a full video. Sure, I could make a video with fewer tips or even just offer some overall advice, but I'm not sure if that's something any of you would actually want. So let me know down in the comments below if you think differently, especially after this video's done. Maybe I can make this into like a Trophy Tips mini-series for YouTube Shorts or TikTok or something. I don't know. I also want to note that despite me using Fall Guys in the beginning of this video, I won't be talking about any of the trophies from my Rarest Trophies video. Partly because in that very same video I talked about what I did to earn each one, and that's basically all I've got in terms of tips for them, but also because the one that I would have made a video for, I already did. Plus, most of them were just grinding through the same task over and over again, so me just repeating all of that really wouldn't help here, and it wouldn't be all that entertaining or helpful. If you want individual tips for any of those trophies, be sure to check that video out once you're done here. But for now, sit back, relax, and let's talk about 10 difficult trophies in no particular order, and the little bit of advice that I could think of to offer for each of them.
The Force is with you, young Skywalker. But you are not a Jedi yet.
Beat Saber is a rhythm game where you slash boxes in specified directions using lightsabers to the beat of some fantastic music. Like most rhythm games, there's a variety of difficulties to choose from, and the most daunting and exhausting is expert difficulty. Wait, what's that? There are higher difficulties now?
Okay. Maybe it's not the most excruciating and daunting difficulty anymore.
Anyway, yeah, right. Trophy. Because Beat Saber is a rhythm game, naturally some of the trophies are going to involve playing the game to perfection. That means no missing any of the boxes, no getting hit by the danger fields or spiky balls, and no collapsing from exhaustion before that final box has met its devastating end. In order to earn the trophy No Mistakes, you have to get that full combo on expert difficulty on 15 different songs. Now thankfully, there's actually kind of an easy solution for this one, which is just, well, get good. That sounds harsh, but it's the same with any rhythm game where the more you play a level and learn it, the more likely you are to complete it with a full combo. So for this one, just choose 15 songs that you like or that can easily be done on expert difficulty, play them a bunch until you can practically do it with your eyes closed, and boom, you're a Jedi Master.
What?
What's better is you're not even limited to just simply the songs available with the game itself. As far as I'm aware, any of the DLC packs you can buy from popular artists like Green Day or Imagine Dragons work for this too. So make yourself radioactive before September ends and you'll beat this one in no time. From its inception, Planet Coaster was designed as a spiritual successor to Roller Coaster Tycoon. And if Josh's videos over on Let's Game It Out are anything to go by, then they truly capture the whimsy of being a homicidal park developer perfectly. Now, for quote-unquote normal people, playing Roller Coaster Tycoon is all about building a theme park from the ground up, managing prices, adding attractions, developing theming, and, that sort of stuff. But for sicko trophy hunters like you or me, there are other things to focus on. The trophies in Planet Coaster largely revolve around two things: building up theme parks throughout the main campaign mode, and screwing around and having fun with the mechanics. Things like winning a go-kart race or adding the maximum amount of salt to the fries are things that are relatively easy to accomplish. But there's one thing that some players seem to struggle with. Now, I don't know if it's a moral question, a mechanics question, or some cosmic force keeping people from doing this, but to earn the Crashing the Party trophy, players need to make a roller coaster crash that involves at least 300 people. So to put it simply, we need to go full saw with this and create a situation that causes the most pain possible. To earn this trophy, you can do one of two things. The first being to strategically design our masterpiece of death. We start by building one very long stretch of land, nice and narrow to allow for a congested walkway to maximize the number of people pushed together. Then we stock the sides of this long walkway with kiosks for food, prizes, and whatever the hell else we can find. And finally, we build our coaster, perching the start of it really high up and letting the track snake its way down until you hit terminal velocity, ending with your car coming off the track into the crowd of people so it's actually hitting them instead of just passing through them. And with that, all we need to do is let the walkway get a bit congested, throw that ride into test mode, and boom! Homicide unlocked. But there's an easier way around this that not a lot of people fully realize. As of me making this video, there is still an online catalog of content from other users you can use, including recreations of real-world rides, unique decorations, generally fun ride ideas, and more importantly for this video, the exact layout I've made here. Yep, if you really want to earn this trophy the easy way, you can simply cheat by downloading my map. Consider it a gift from me to you, but only if you subscribe. I mean, I have no way of really knowing if you actually subscribe or not, but it really does just help me out, It makes me know that people want to watch my videos, and I mean, even if you don't download this map and you do it yourself however you want, it's not like a prerequisite or anything. I just really wanted to make this quick, cheap plug, Random whinging over, we'll move on now. I was personally quite upset to hear about the closing of Valiant in 2023, seeing as the studio developed one of my personal favorite game franchises, that being the Saints Row franchise. From the early days of taking to the streets of Stillwater, all the way up to their most recent romp through Santo Alesso, this quirky, bombastic series of games started out as a ripoff of games like Grand Theft Auto, before becoming the balls-to-the-wall, dildo bat-swinging fuckstravaganza that they eventually became, and I love them for it. For me, my personal favorite game in the series has always been and will almost certainly remain Saints Row 4, especially now that Volition is sadly no more, and any attempts to recreate the franchise will just feel like the Scary Movie franchise after 3, where it was just trying too hard.
This is the most obnoxious thing I've ever experienced in my life.
One of the best parts of Saints Row 4, though, has got to be the freedom of movement your various superpowers grant you. While in the not-at-all Matrix knockoff called The Simulation, my forever techie waifu Kinsey Kensington helps unlock special superpowers for you to use that you can help blow things up better and get around the open world in no time with. Among the various superpowers unlocked for you are a super sprint and a super jump that can eventually be upgraded to have a super glide, which itself is just plain super. Why that is super is simple. You'll use these abilities to complete epic jump quests, of course. For this trophy, all you do is leap from the top of the 3-count casino and land all the way across the map on the nuclear plant. Simple, right? Well, no. Why else would I have almost made a trophy tips video for it? This is actually the first trophy on this list so far where I actively began working on a video for it. But I just couldn't come up with enough tips to justify it because of my arbitrary rule of needing at least 4 tips. So I never got past the scripting process. So instead of just sitting on this info and leaving you all high and dry like the Saints Row franchise itself, here are the 2 tips that I came up with so that you can hopefully earn this one for yourself. Number 1, know your route. As in, know the angle you need to leap from and the general layout of the map towards the nuke plant. I found it good to start from this spot on the tower, specifically as high up as you can, and then jump as high as you possibly can before starting your glide. Just make sure you avoid rooftops, the ground, and your own insecurities along the way. Otherwise, you'll have to shamefully sprint jump your way back to the tower to try it all again. You are able to run up buildings though, and make sure you just don't accidentally land on the roof or something. And number 2, upgrades, baby. Which is to say, use them. They're in the game for a reason after all. Though keep in mind, you really don't have to be fully upgraded to do this. But I also like to do things like this with less stress, and you're more likely going to end up upgrading yourself to the fullest anyways to get the platinum. So go all out and make your character explode from all the steroid use. I mean, make that jump, yo.
He threatened to turn me into the government, so I made him and the government go away.
Rick and Morty Virtual Rickality is essentially a fully in VR episode of the show, where you do simple, basic tasks to help Rick cause mayhem for about an hour and then you're done. I haven't really watched Rick and Morty for a while now, and while I still somewhat enjoy playing this game from time to time, its charm wore off for me pretty quick. Kinda like how the show's charm wore off quick at once McDonald's re-released the Szechuan sauce. Although that's more about the fans.
Where's my Szechuan sauce?
That said, I did have 2 separate videos planned for this very game, each one tackling a different trophy that are commonly seen as some of the hardest to earn on the PSVR for some reason. The first one, Fully Charged, just has you playing essentially an endless version of the battery refueling minigame, while the other one, which I had actively begun working on before I decided to just stop, is for Bureaucratic Nightmare. About halfway through the game, Rick has you go to an alien planet to get an egg that's like 4 feet away from him because he's a lazy dick. Once you give it to him, you learn that said egg was nabbed inside a nature preserve, and now government agents are coming to justify their massive military budget by sending waves and waves of gun-wielding bugs your way. Rick outfits your floating Morty self with some laser guns that can overheat if you hold the fire button down for too long, and you're given the chance to properly utilize your Second Amendment rights in space at least 100 times over. For this one, the simplest way to complete it is to wait until you unlock the sandbox mode at the end of the game, since you can just replay this as much as you like there. You'll want to focus your fire instead of just holding down the trigger, and you probably want to take a lesson from Master Piccolo and learn how to dodge! It's really just that simple, to be honest. So why didn't I make the episode? Well, for this one, it's less that I couldn't come up with enough to say, as you pretty much just saw, and more just a general lack of interest in Rick and Morty, to be honest. When I first played through it, I did enjoy it, and I even had the script for this one mostly done and ready to turn into a video, but between my lack of interest in the show, as well as everything surrounding Justin Roiland, I just don't really want to make it anymore. Not very Swifty of me, I know, but them's the breaks. And with that, we're wubba lubba done done.
Shh, not now, son. I'm making toast.
Chivalry 2 is a fast-paced, objective-based combat simulator about men shouting at one another before hitting each other with large metal sticks. It's also an incredibly fun game to play, and loves to have fun with its somewhat sandbox nature in a number of ways. The most common and potentially silly of these ways has to be the ability to pick up random objects throughout the level to use as projectiles or improvised weapons, and let me tell you, there's nothing quite as satisfying as throwing an anvil at some guy's face, even though my giant broadsword would have done me better in battle. While most of the trophies involve you winning matches on certain maps or getting kills with specific class types, one trophy does ask you to get kills with these improvised weapons, but only a specific type. No, it's not the anvil, it's not a wagon wheel, other people's limbs, candelabras, or anything else you can find. Those are all things you can pick up and use in game, sure, but for Baker's Dozen, as the name might imply, all you need to do is have a good old-fashioned loaf of gluten. To earn Baker's Dozen, all you need to do is get 13 kills using bread. So naturally, you have to find some bread in a level and force feed your opponent hoping they have a gluten allergy, right? Well, no. Partly because gluten allergies weren't invented until 2015, but mainly because you don't actually eat the food in this game. You just throw it. So take that hunk of whole wheat and throw it at that Agathan, and hope that your bakery bashing is enough to do him in to get the kill. Do that a total of 13 times, and you've got yourself another trophy. The only real tip I can give for this one is to know where the bread is. Some levels have a few spots where it can be found, but I've found that the Arena and Lionsgate have the best spots to grab bread from. It may also help to have a friend along who can distract potential opponents, with them signaling you it's time to rain down some pumpernickel punishment onto an unsuspecting victim. It's a real no-brainer here, you know? You just gotta make sure you don't crumble under the pressure. Really gotta rise to this particular challenge. No loafing around with this one. I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself with the puns, you know? No matter how half-baked they might have been. Okay, I'm done for real now.
I'm a gnome, and you've been gnomed!
Depending on who you ask, Fortnite is either a blight on the gaming landscape that should have never been released, or is a wildly varied game featuring various game modes, crossovers, and more that's still a blight on the gaming landscape. In case the several Fortnite videos I've posted in the past aren't indication enough, I fall into the latter camp here, but that's more because I'm bitter than because I dislike Fortnite. In fact, I'm one of the few people who actually paid for Fortnite. Bruh. Before Epic Games outright stole the concept of a battle royale game from PUBG, Fortnite was billed as a PvE game where you build a base and defend it from hordes of zombie-like creatures. Now called Save the World, this mode is still playable as of me making this video, and in order to get the platinum for the game, you need to play a lot of Save the World. Like a lot. Like MMO levels of a lot. Do a ton of missions, complete objectives in these missions to a nauseating degree, navigate a seemingly endless list of menus and upgrade trees, slay a shit ton of miss monsters, and even do a few side objectives like Go Gnome, which, of everything in the game, is somehow one of the least unlocked trophies for this game that isn't even that massive of a grind. To earn Go Gnome, all you have to do is destroy 100 gnome statues across successful missions. Yeah, 100 gnomes. Compared to having to build 500,000 structures or save 10,000 survivors, breaking 100 red-capped garden dwellers is way easier than being a white man with bad knees and no rhythm trying to do Fortnite dances. Anyway, to help you out with this one, focus on picking levels within Canny Valley since they seem to spawn more frequently in that region. It takes a while to get to that, but once you found it, I've found they're also more likely to spawn in cities, with upwards of 8 to 10 per level in some cases, especially if your level ends up randomly generating a toy store. You can find them in other areas, sure, but with how densely packed the city levels are, it's a safer bet than trying to find them out in the desert or a forest or something. Once you find them, just break 100 of them with them pickaxe and then boom, you're done. Simple as that.
Was this all just an excuse to briefly talk about Fortnite Save the World, since all anyone ever wants to talk about with this game is Battle Royale, and I'm still bitter about that? Yes. Yes, it was.
This is the sonorous war cry of a very angry frog.
Video games have given us a wide array of unique weapons over the years. A gigantic key club that's somehow called a blade, a handheld device that nullifies the gravity of things it picks up and then launches it at intense velocity, a unicorn that painfully shoots rainbows out of its butt. All of these are certainly unique in their own regard, but the most unique ones in my mind also contribute to exploration and platforming, and that's where Frogun comes in. Frogun is a PS1 era throwback platformer where your main weapon is a gun that shoots out a tongue like a frog, allowing you to stick to walls and pull yourself towards them, to grab enemies and then throw them into oblivion, or simply annoy people with long-distance wet willies. It's a surprisingly fun collectathon to lick your way through, but going for completion is a true test of willpower and patience. In order to earn the platinum for Frogun, you need to gather an insane number of coins to unlock hats and concept art, but all you really have to do is grind the same level over and over again, so that one's really not too troublesome, just tedious. However, in order to earn the trophy entitled Duelist, you need to enter a gauntlet of the game's bosses and come out victorious. The actual challenge isn't too hard if you're paying attention to the attack patterns of the bosses, but there's only so many checkpoints you can use, one after every 2 bosses, and worst of all, the final boss is the biggest pain in the ass in the game. I won't make a trophy tips video for this one simply because I genuinely can't think of enough tips for it, but I also just don't want to have to do it again. My only real tip I can offer is make sure you have as close to full health when you face off against the final boss. Seems pretty obvious, I know, but that means getting hit as few times as possible with boss 5, which itself isn't the easiest task, but is at least doable. But you'll also need to make sure you have at least 4 HP for when the final boss does his bullshit lightning ground attack that you're supposed to grapple towards the statues during, but it never really worked properly for me, so I'm salty and I want to be free of this fucking pain.
Wait, I got the trophy already. What? So why the hell am I doing this again? Oh, right. Video. You're welcome?
The original Ratchet & Clank is still arguably one of my favorite games for the original PlayStation 2, helping to launch one of the best franchises in all of gaming if you ask me. It's also the game that's aged the worst, however, thanks in part to its lack of strafing for combat, its clunkier design, and lack of James Arnold Taylor in the lead role. It's one of the only games in the franchise I don't usually go for 100% completion on whenever I decide to replay it, and that's for a very simple reason. Partway through Blackwater City, players will run into this shady-looking fella offering you a franchise staple weapon known as the Rhino, or rip ya a new one if you enjoy cheeky humor. However, during your first playthrough, you're very unlikely to have enough bolts to afford the weapon, considering he wants you to pay him 150,000 bolts for it, and the game's economy is so stingy that you're lucky to have 40,000 throughout your whole playthrough. Now that itself is not that great. Obviously, trying to get 150,000 bolts for one single weapon is gonna take you quite a while. Now what if I told you in order to earn the Bolt Collector trophy, you had to do that 6.5 times over? Now my math might not be perfect there, but essentially, you gotta get 1,000,000 bolts to get this one trophy in a Ratchet & Clank game that doesn't have a bolt multiplier. So, how do you get the cash? Well, there's really only 3 ways to do it. Option 1 is to replay the game multiple times, foregoing the gold weapon upgrades and focus purely on that capitalist grind. The second way to get that many bolts would be to take one of your comically sized weapons and rob a Home Depot with it, but that's only gonna get you about 50k at best and likely won't work as a good excuse for a judge should you get caught. The third way to do it, and the reason this one won't get a trophy tips video, is simple. There is a well-known exploit within the game that you can utilize. It just requires the taunter weapon and takes several hours to complete. To use the exploit, you simply go back to where you enter the hoverboard races in the first place, and use this stack of boxes here and Clank's helicopter hover pack, abuse some geometry in the world design to get onto these buildings. Then just glide down here until the actual track appears and make your way towards this stack of boxes towards the end of the track. Stand under the boxes so you can't see them, don't worry about the amoeboids around, they won't hurt you, hold down the trigger on the taunter, and shower Ratchet in the most uncomfortable money shower you can. So really, those are your options. Either use an exploit, play through an admittedly fun game multiple times, or rob several hardware stores and risk jail time. I mean, I guess you could also just not go for the trophy, but that's for quitters. And you're no quitter, are you?
I'm invincible!
You're a loony.
The Little Big Planet series is a personal favorite of mine for its incredible charm, its plethora of creativity, and plenty of Stephen Fry narration. The series has seen a wide variety of gameplay over the years, thanks in large part to its community-made levels, as well as spin-offs like Little Big Planet Karting, but the main series largely stuck with side-scrolling adventures involving little dress-up voodoo dolls named Sack People. That is until Little Big Planet 3. The big innovation for Little Big Planet 3 wasn't just adding more creative stuff around to mess with, but also gave us 3 new playable characters to play as well as gave level creators 16 layers to work with instead of just the standard 3. In general, it's a fairly easy to use but hard to master creation system overall, but still a lot of fun to mess around with, which is why it strikes me as a little odd that I Am Invincible hasn't been unlocked by more players. There's quite a few trophies related to the creation suite, including maxing out the thermometer by spawning a ton of stuff, dunking a programmable sackbot into water, and using all of those new layers like you're trying to bundle up for a Wisconsin winter. But I Am Invincible Survival has the lowest unlock percentage of all of them at a staggeringly low 0.7%. And that's weird because it's arguably one of the easiest ones to do, and all you need to do is use advanced settings in the creation suite. To earn I Am Invincible, first get a box. Sackboy, that's a pickle. Right, so get the box, go into the hazards menu, and set that box on fire. Now go get a gameplay tweaker, flip these specific menus as to the positions shown on screen, and then jump onto that hotbox. Simple as that. However, the true tragedy here is actually only a more recent development. As of April 19th, the online servers for Little Big Planet 3 were shut down, essentially erasing decades of player-made levels and content on a whim, some of which I had a hand in actually creating. As such, unless you have unlocked them before now, you actually won't be able to get the platinum for this game, as there are 2 trophies that require online play. And outside of the fact that those levels are gone, that just sucks.
Honestly, I don't even really have a joke to end this one on. This whole ordeal just bums me out because I so greatly love the Little Big Planet games. So go out and earn this one, not just for the platinum, but for posterity.
We're going on a trip in our favorite rocket ship, zooming through the sky.
Resogun is arguably one of the highlights of the PlayStation 4's launch, offering players a fun arcadey experience right from the jump while you waited 13 hours for Killzone Shadowfail to install. It's one of those titles that's just fun to pick up and play consistently, and if you're like me, you've probably done that to what some might call an unhealthy degree. What makes the game so much fun to play is the wide variety of game modes within, including your standard arcade mode, a survival mode, a mode where you play with bocce balls, and even a chance to get out of the ship for some reason to fight meteors. You can even go in and make your own ship, or use ones made by the community. So find what ship works best for you and go for it. Hashtag release Acme vs. Coyote, damn it. Each of the game modes that are offered have their own challenges and trophies associated with them. But for today, we'll focus purely on the arcade mode, and specifically the trophy 1cc. To earn 1cc, you need to complete arcade mode from the first level Eris all the way through the final boss of Mephitis on experience difficulty without losing all your lives, and that's it. Now, if you're experienced with games like this, you may not think that's such a hard task, because it's not the highest difficulty in the game, and it's really not that hard of a challenge overall. And yet this one trophy is the one with the lowest unlock rate out of all of them. For this one, my 2 major tips I can offer really aren't that hard to follow. First, focus on survival above all else, and use the Nemesis weapon for precision and to help you snag a few straggling enemies. Grabbing humans can help you upgrade your overdrive and boost, sure, but you should focus more on upgrading your weapons rather than those if possible. And as far as the weapon itself is concerned, all 3 major weapons work fine, but Nemesis I've found has that auto-aiming weapon after it's upgraded a few times to help catch enemies not immediately in front of you. Ultimately, it's about staying alive and hitting as many enemies as you can. Try and go full American drone strike with it, if you know what I mean. And with that, we're done. 10 games that have difficult trophies to them where I thought about making a trophy tips video, but couldn't really justify doing so in the end. These aren't the only trophies I've planned on making videos for that I couldn't really justify, but there are some of the bigger ones I could think of that I've earned that I could offer at least some tips for.
But with all that said, are there any trophies you might want some help with? Be sure to check out my profile on PlayStationProfiles.com to see what trophies I've earned. You can follow the link down below. If it's one that I've earned and has a low enough completion rate, I'll consider making a video on it, assuming I can come up with enough tips for it. Otherwise, I'll maybe just make another video like this in the future talking about why I can't help you? I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Anyway, that's pretty much going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe here on Twitter and TikTok for whenever I decide to actually upload there, and I'll see all of you in the next video. Thanks again for watching, and take care.